So how is everyone this morning? Good. I don't know if you've noticed, maybe it's just me, but there seems to be a sense of unrest in the world right now. And it's not just in our country, because I have friends around the world that I've talked to, and it's everywhere. There's a sense of unrest. And maybe you have felt it in you. I know I have. And it started months ago, actually. I began to just feel this sense of movement. And you know how sometimes when we're being nudged in a direction, we spend a little time resisting? Is it just me? You know, there's that fear and that uncertainty of, what does this mean? What's ahead? What are we being called to? Am I going to have to change? Am I going to have to get uncomfortable? Ooh. And so, back in July, I had made a decision. So, to give you a little background, yes, I'm a Unity minister, and prior to that was a nurse. I've kind of had a winding path in my life. But then I went on to doing leadership and organizational consulting and became a leadership coach. And so for the past 10 years, I've been working for Children's Mercy. And I have done a variety of things, including starting an executive coaching program there that I led with 30 coaches across our organization. We started a leadership conference. So part of my nursing background, part of my background as a minister and spiritual leader, and then doing leadership and coaching all kind of came together in that experience. But I was getting this sense of unrest. And it started showing up as, you know, I'm not really in alignment with the way things are going, with the direction. And so I made the choice to go out on my own, start my own business. I was fortunate to have all the certifications I could possibly have as a master coach and an executive coach, and had made contacts with a variety of consulting companies over the years as I did my work. And so I was all set. I was on a path, and I knew where that path was going. And suddenly, I find myself here with you. Now, how the heck did that happen? I'm still wondering that myself. I mean, I knew that public speaking, you know, has always been something I do, and so that wasn't a surprise to me, but I really hadn't thought about engaging in that from a more spiritual perspective again. And so as I started on the path that I knew I was going down, I kept hitting walls. I kept hitting roadblocks. And it wasn't just one place, it was in a lot of places. And I kept feeling like I was bumping up against something. Do you ever have that feeling like, ugh, I know this is where I'm supposed to be going. Why is it not moving? And so a variety of things happened along the way. I happened to step into the bookstore here at Unity, and I hadn't been out here for some time. But my best friend, who's the Unity minister, was out here with her congregation, and so I stepped into the bookstore. And Stephanie, who we know and send blessings to this morning, she's not feeling well, hadn't seen her in ages. And the first thing she said to me was, she said, "Tell me you're out there speaking somewhere." And I'm like, no, you know, I do a lot of leadership presentations, etc. But she's like, oh man, you need to be speaking. So my first experience of you was on the platform. She said, I come from a line of preachers. You need to be doing that. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay. And so, again, that resistance to move in a direction, because I had charted my path. That wasn't it. So I decided one day, I live near Loose Park, so I went out to the park, and I took my journal, and I wrote, and I meditated, and and I kept hearing this whisper, finish that book, get out there and talk. And it wasn't a book on coaching that I had started. It was a book about accessing our spiritual truth, about breaking down all those things we think we are and have been defined by, and accessing that part of us that knows who we are meant to be, that original blessing. So I went, all right. So I started writing. And then I was at a women's conference, a leadership conference, not anything having to do with anything spiritual. And as I was walking out of the conference, a woman stopped me, and she said, I know you. And I said, oh, remind me from where? And she said, from Unity. She said, you spoke at my church, Unity of Independence. And she said, it was before you were getting ready to start your church, which I eventually did. So we're talking 2002. She said, I still remember what you said. I still remember what you said, and I wanted you to know it had an impact on my life. And I was like, okay, I hear you. Apparently, somewhere way back when I said, as I was being ordained, Spirit, have your way with me, apparently someone heard that. And so here I am with you, back in my spiritual home. And where it's taking me, I don't know. But that's okay. It's that nudge, it's that calling. And as the world changed, as our country changed a few weeks ago, and that unrest got louder, suddenly it all made sense. Suddenly I went, oh, okay, that's what this is about. It's time. It's time to rethink my purpose. And I think it's time for all of us to take our shoes off at the edge of the water and to say, maybe the direction I was headed or thought I was headed, maybe the direction we thought we were headed is not the path. Maybe there's another path. Reverend Erin last week talked about being with what is. In that what isness, I think we are all being called to rethink who we are, who we're meant to be, the direction we're going, and what we have to give, what we have to offer. The thing about living a life dedicated to being in purpose, to being in alignment with our calling, to be in alignment with Spirit, God, the universe, that divine plan, is sometimes it'll rock us. Sometimes it's like being on a wild ride of ups and downs, and sometimes it whips us around and we're like, whoa, what just happened? How did I end up here? But that's the way it works, because it is energy. And just because we might be in a place where we're questioning everything we knew doesn't mean there's not a plan. There's a plan. We just might not be able to see all the steps. But do you feel it? Do you feel something? Do you feel that unrest? And sometimes that unrest feels like agitation or anxiety. Some days it's like, let me just put a blanket over my head and watch Netflix. And that's okay. But what if that is simply energy rising up in us, creative energy? What if that unrest is actually Spirit working through us, calling us to something bigger, calling us to reconnect with that innate sense of purpose we are born with. Because we are. So don't be fooled. That creative energy is moving in each one of us. And I first understood that idea, I think really understood that idea, that we are all born with a divine purpose. When I was a mere 22 years old, brand new nurse, working in the neonatal intensive care unit. I wasn't in that job more than 6 months when I was assigned to take care of a baby who was dying. This baby had no family. His mom was somewhere off getting a fix. He'd been born too early for his organs to support his survival. And so my assignment that shift was to wrap him up, take him into a private room, and rock him while he died. I was 22 years old. Wasn't the first time I had experienced death, but I certainly had never held a newborn baby who was dying. And I rocked that baby for my entire shift for 8 hours as his heart rate slowly went down, as he slowly shut down. And I went through all the phases and questions that you can imagine. I was angry. Why? Why is this beautiful, perfect infant, why is it no one cares that he is here? He didn't even have a name. Baby boy. That's what's on the isolates before babies have been named. And so I rocked him, and I went through all my emotions, and I kept looking in his face, and I kept wondering, what is the purpose of this child? No one even knows he's here. But I knew. I knew. And as I looked into his face, I couldn't deny the perfection I saw there. I couldn't deny the beauty I saw there. And I thought, okay, there's something more to this. There is a reason this baby has come onto this planet. And maybe the reason was simply for me to ask the questions, for me to understand that beauty and that perfection that I saw in his face didn't stop when he took his last breath. That baby has lived in me the rest of my life. That baby was a master teacher. That baby had a purpose bigger than I even could realize in that moment. And he was alive 2 days. 2 days. So maybe we make this more complicated than it needs to be. Maybe it's as simple as the fact that we are born with a purpose, and our purpose sometimes is just to be present, just to be here with and for one another. Can that be enough? Some days, yeah. Paulo Coelho, author of The Alchemist, said, "Our purpose is most likely not very far away from where we each are now." You know, it's interesting because I read a lot of Eastern philosophy, and even in the leadership development and coaching work that I do, I work with a lot of people around, finding their purpose, finding fulfillment, finding happiness. And in the West, we tend to try to seek it out. We search for that happiness. Where is that? Is it in the next job? Is it in the next relationship? It is in our next, level of financial security. What does that look like? Is it in that vacation that's 2 months from now? We seek it out. But in the East, what they understand is that happiness and joy is a byproduct of living a life of purpose. It is not something to be sought. It is something that happens when we are fulfilling our unique purpose on the planet. It is a byproduct of that. So I was sitting with my friend Alex. We were having coffee a few weeks ago. And I was talking about how, and Alex and I have worked together quite a bit in the past. And I was talking about how, when I walk in a room, like a networking event or a conference or a meeting or whatever, where I don't know anyone, I always look for those people that have that kind of spark, that seem to have that aliveness about them, because I figured they're probably pretty interesting. And I said, do you know what I'm talking about? And he said, yeah, they have their light on versus having it off. And I thought, wow, what a simple yet profound idea. And I walked home from that coffee because it was down the street. So as I walked the mile back to my house, I sat with that idea and processed it. And I had a whole chapter outlined by the time I got home. Thank you, Alex. But there's this idea that you may have noticed as you interact with people in your circles or in your work, that there are those people that just have their light on. And we're drawn to them, aren't we? Especially if we don't know anyone. It's like, oh, I'm going to go to that friendly face, to that lit up person. And what I've come to know as I've talked to those people is they have this sense of purpose in their life. It's not that everything is going great for them. In fact, sometimes just the opposite as you listen to their stories. But they have a sense of purpose. They have a desire to make a difference. They know that their presence matters. Their presence matters. When we look at giving, I have worked with a lot of caregivers in my lifetime. I've worked with ministerial students, I've worked with nurses, physicians, and as you can imagine, there's a high degree of burnout. That idea of giving and having purpose is not about giving until you are empty. There are those moments, sure, when there's a crisis and we have to go above and beyond and we work to the point of exhaustion. There are moments that call for that. But when that's a habitual thing in our life, we are not giving for someone else. We're doing it for ourselves. We are doing it out of some message that said, this is who we are, this is who we need to be. That self-sacrifice is a constant in our life, and that means we're a good person. But true giving comes from a place of being full within ourselves, of having a fullness and a joy and a sense of purpose that spills out into whatever we do. That's what true giving looks like. As we look at the master teachers from various traditions, we see them taking time to go off and refill their cup. Jesus went into the wilderness. Siddhartha Gautama, or Buddha, sat under a tree for days. We need to first fill our cup. So I have 2 assignments for you, Because you didn't think you were going to get out of here without homework, did you? Your first assignment is to think about how you can reclaim your own light. How you can take that energy that's moving in you right now and give it life. Whatever that looks like for you. Now, we don't have time for you to take years off in the wilderness. The world's moving too fast. But how about moments in your day? Can we start there? How about moments in your day? For me, it's getting up in the morning and fixing my cup of chai tea and reading something inspirational. Sometimes it's at the end of the day, sitting at my art desk and just doing something in my art journal. What is it that fills your cup? What is it that connects you to your innate light? Your first assignment is to do that. To do that. And to keep doing that for moments during the day. Don't wait for that retreat. Don't wait for that vacation. Don't wait for the world to be a certain way. Don't wait for life to look a certain way. Do it today. What is it that fills your cup? Harold Thurman said, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So what is it that makes you come alive? What is it that makes you come alive? Do that. Here's your second assignment. So I was at a party with a group of friends, and I had seen this gentleman in a couple different times. I didn't know him well, but every time I saw him, he was kind of off by himself, on his phone, disengaged, not interacting, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else but there. And so I knew one thing about this man. I knew that he loved to play the guitar. And so we happened to find ourselves next to each other in a buffet line getting food at a potluck. And I turned to him and I said, "Hey, I hear you like to play the guitar." And he went, yeah, I do. I'm like, "What kind of music do you like to play? Do you just play at home? Do you write music? All of a sudden, this very sullen man lit up. He lit up and started talking. He was even animated and smiling. And I was like, wow, didn't see that coming. In that moment, I threw down a challenge to myself. What if anytime I came across somebody like that, I challenged myself to find what lit them up? So then when I'm checking out in the grocery store and the person's scanning your stuff that looks like they'd rather be getting a root canal than be there, I'm like, there's a good one. This is going to be a good one. I look for anything that I can connect with them about. Maybe it's their nail polish. Maybe it's a little button they have on their vest. Maybe it's simply saying, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" Or, "The holiday's coming up. Do you have plans?" It has become a challenge to find what is that thing that will bring them alive. Because you see, first we find that thing that brings us alive. First we nurtured that. But then as conscious, awake beings, which I know each of you are, we have a spiritual obligation and responsibility to take that out into the world. It doesn't have to be complicated. It simply can be being present, connecting, seeing someone. So your second assignment is to go out this week, and as you interact, maybe it's on a Zoom meeting, maybe it's in Target, maybe it's at the dinner table this week with family, to challenge yourself to look around and find that person who maybe has forgotten who they are, who maybe has let their light get a little dim by life, by beliefs, by sadness, whatever. Find that person and see if you can find the thing that brings them alive. Next thing you know, they're going to be showing you pictures of their dog or their grandchild. I've got a few of those if anybody's interested. As we make that our mission, it's not about saving the world. Let go of that burden. Because we're all here together for a reason. I don't need to save the world all by myself because I've got all of you. I just know that if I do what is mine to do, if I keep my light bright, and if I go out there and do what I am gifted to do to help others come more alive, live their purpose, that if we all do that, that is power. That is power. That is life-changing. That is country-changing. That is world-changing. That is our invitation. It's kind of like if you've ever been to a candlelight service. You know how somebody lights your candle, and then you turn around and you light the next person, they light the next person. It's just like that. We're reclaiming that light for ourselves, for each other. So I wanted to end today with some good news stories because that always makes me light up. Because there's a lot of good people out there doing great things. So I don't know, have you seen the story of the bus driver? It's been going around. New York bus driver taking people home from on their evening commute. And he says over the announcement, he said, I know you guys have probably had some hard days. You've been busy. You've got a lot of stress, whatever is on your mind. On your way off of the bus, I'm going to hold out my hand. And I'm going to invite you to put whatever is troubling you, whatever has stressed you today, in my hand. So you don't take that home to the people you love. So you don't spend the rest of the evening thinking about it. Put it in my hand. And on my route, I'm going to pass by the Hudson River, and I'm going to throw it all in the river. Next stop, he holds out his hand. One by one, people put the things that are stressing them in his hand. And not only that, but people are laughing. People are talking to each other. The whole energy of the commute had changed by one simple action. Then I just recently heard about a man in London who also was on the train and on his way home. And the London network has an assistance program where they help people with disabilities get on and off the train. And so there was a man who was blind. And they were helping him get on the train. Well, as he did, his foot caught in the little space between the platform and the train, and he lost his shoe. And so he got on the train and he sat down and was visibly distressed by the fact that he couldn't retrieve it. He didn't know what was going to happen when he got off the train. And so a stranger, sitting a couple seats away, took off his shoes and gave them to this man. and proceeded to walk off at his stop into the snow in his socks to find a pair of shoes. Nobody knows who that man was. In fact, they're trying to figure it out. That simple act of kindness. And for those of you who have maybe given up on all politicians, which it's kind of been easy to do lately, no matter what side you're on, I think it's been a rough ride. I want to share a story about a man named Andy Kim. Maybe you know him. He's from New Jersey. He was a congressman. On January 6th, after all the rioting, after everything happened, after the vote was finalized, all the people in Congress were leaving. It was like 1 in the morning by this time. As he was walking out, he saw the janitors cleaning up the Capitol. And he stopped, took off his jacket, grabbed a bag, got down on his knees, and he started picking up trash. This November, Andy Kim became the new senator for New Jersey. There is a lot of good in this world. There's a lot of good sitting in this room. So this week, do whatever you need to do to light yourself up, to bring yourself alive, and then go out there and be that in the world. Because that is what we need. That's what we need.